Welcome to another video. This is our Zoom meeting for July 14th, 2020. And so I'm going to just jump right in and go over the agenda and then talk a little bit about insurance, and hope to see you next week. Don't forget, if you have any questions, if you need anything, just shoot me an email, send me a group me message or a text message, or however you want to reach me. Let me know your question, and I'll be happy to do a quick tutorial video to answer your question and help you move forward. So thanks for watching the video. Today's kind of long, it's an hour long, so feel free to put it in fast mode. See you next time. Take care. Pew. Hey, we're being recorded. So the date is July 14th, and this is our Zoom meeting for the week for Money Study Group. And today we have about 34 folks. Not bad. The numbers are dwindling though. 34 folks from the University of Houston Bauer College of Business. Welcome everybody. If you have any questions, I'm listening, and I'm also reading the chat. So if you have any questions, let her rip, tater chip. I have an agenda. I want to look at the agenda real quick. I'm going to start doing this really clear agenda every lesson, every time we get together on Zoom. And I'm going to keep notes as we go throughout the week. So one of the things that has recurred multiple times this week is that we had 3 assignments due on Friday. And so I can't remember which assignment it was, but I extended 1 or maybe 2 assignments and gave you an extra week to do it because we had some technical difficulties. That's difficulties. In Blackboard. You guys were locked out. I lost the entire course, gave me a scare. So at any rate, we extended, and then that created some confusion, and I apologize for that. So last week we had 3 assignments. I'm going to just jump through them real quick and just let you know that if you want to go ahead, if you missed one of those assignments, just go ahead, do it now if you want, turn it in late. You won't get extra points, which I'm pretty generous with extra points, actually. You won't get the extra points for turning it in early. However, you will get you won't get deducted for turning it in late. So hope that helps. Camille, I'm looking at 15/10/4/10 a.m. That must be the date, I guess. That's weird. Oh, that's your number. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, cool. You guys don't have to put your numbers in, but that's cool. That's your ID number. I'm sorry. I forgot. So back to the agenda. Here are the 3 assignments that were due Friday. First, and these may not be in the perfect order. I think we did Credit Crush was the first one, and the Credit Crush is important because it's really integrated with your capstone. So in the Credit Crush, what you were asked to do was go shopping for your dream home, which you did, and you guys sent me pictures and showed me why you bought what you bought, and you came up with pretty good, I think pretty accurate prices. Hopefully you did a little research to find out what were the taxes and what was the insurance. Because when you put that home into your plan, both the property and the loan, what you're doing is you're creating some projections around your financial plan. So that was kind of the purpose there, to add your home insurance, your car insurance. But first you were going to go buy a car, buy a house, and then you were going to go on a credit card spending spree. And this was just an opportunity, this whole assignment, Credit Crush. If you missed the point of the assignment, which I am afraid some of you actually missed the whole point of the assignment just because I think it was kind of fragmented a little bit. And so I'm going to take responsibility for that. I just want to sum it up and make sure you understand, because it's never too late to go back and learn the lesson that you may not have learned. And so this whole assignment was designed for one specific purpose, and that was to give you some real data that you created. The cost of a home, the cost of a car. You picked the car, you went on a spending spree, and you created a credit card account with certain interest rates and minimum payments, and all of that got built into your plan. And then you were able to go and play with that debt strategy field where you get to say, okay, what if I pay that off before I pay that off? That was the whole purpose of creating, your dream house, your cool car, your credit card spending spree. It was to give you data in your own financial model so that you could then go back and play with it to see the differences if you are smart about which strategies you employ in your financial plan. So this is one way that as a financial planner, I can really help people move the needle in terms of building wealth. And so that was the whole point of the Credit Crush assignment. So I hope you didn't miss that, but if you did, no sweat, no problem. Go back, play with that a little bit, and create the scenario that makes sense to you. Hopefully that's fun. It shouldn't take long at all. You did the work, so you might as well get the lesson. So that was Credit Crush. Then we did Insurance 101. I spent last week, and I'm going to spend this week talking about insurance. I hate to tell you, but Abriana, I'm going to try to do that. So Abriana says, and I was about to say this, insurance is like a mountain of minutia. I teach insurance at Rice University for professionals who want to become certified financial planners. And one of the big frustrations I have in that course is there's so much information. There's no possible way to get through it. And believe me, those students who are paying a lot of money to prepare to take the CFP exam, they're very committed, and they're spending a lot of time, a lot more time than you're spending. So all that to say, there is no way that I can really do justice to the topic of insurance in an intro to personal finance class. So what I'm trying to do is, and what I'm going to try to do today, is show you some of the most common policies and the most common coverages within those policies, like homeowners, auto, life insurance. What are the most common things you need to do to protect yourself? Insurance is designed to transfer risk from you to the insurance company. You do that with a premium. That's what it costs. And you have deductibles, which lower the cost because you're keeping some of the risk. And those are principles of property and casualty insurance, deductibles. And so there's so much to cover, and I'm sorry I can't do it better, but I'm going to do my best. So I get that you were pretty lost on your last assignment with insurance. Could we take a look at this week's to clarify instructions? Absolutely. So the instructions were pretty simple. Well, maybe they weren't simple, but the assignment I think was pretty simple, and most of you proved that when you did it. You were just supposed to go and basically add homeowners insurance and auto insurance to your plan. Before you did that, though, you were supposed to get a quote for car insurance, which, again, about half of you demonstrated that you learned a ton, that you achieved what my objective was in that assignment. When you go get an insurance quote, you're basically asking a professional. So generally, you're asking, you may have done it online and without the assistance of a licensed professional, but most of you took the time to call or email your insurance agent from your policy. And if you did that, if you have insurance, then this assignment works really well. If you don't pay for insurance, you don't have insurance, you've never had insurance, it's kind of hard to do this. So I'm not sure where you were in that whole scenario, Abriana, but for those of you, most of you, you got a lot of benefit, and you demonstrated that you learned about the different coverages inside of an auto policy. So I'll do some more training, and it may not be during this course, it may be after the course, but I'm going to continue to develop good teaching resources on insurance. So if you feel like you got gypped in the insurance department this semester, stay tuned. Hopefully we'll stay connected, and I'll share. And I'll always answer specific questions that you have. That's really what I'm spending my time doing this semester. is as questions come up, I try to shoot a quick video to clarify it. So Adriana, if you have specific questions, it would be helpful for me, to know what to clarify, which part of the assignment you were struggling with. I'll be happy to help, and I'll do a quick tutorial video. I hope those are helping, by the way. But your questions are what guide the content that I'm creating to answer those questions. So, all right, let's move on. Let's see what else. So the Insurance 101, basically get a car insurance quote, add insurance, home and auto to your plan, and most of you just nailed that. So great. Let's see, what else? Oh, bargaining and negotiating. That was the third assignment. And that was pretty straightforward. It was mostly watching, listening to, it was a video from my friend Remit Sethi. I met him a long time ago. I was very impressed. He wrote a book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And I wrote a book called Make Your Money Count, but the domain was not available. MakeYourMoneyCount.com was already owned. So I got the idea to go ahead and make a website for IMakeYourMoneyCount.com. And I got that idea from Remit. So anyway, you guys watched that article. You kind of highlighted it, summarized it. In addition to that, your assignment was to share your favorite bargaining tips and tools and tricks. And you did that. I enjoyed reading those. And then you were supposed to share a little bit about your experience with bargaining and negotiating. And tell me, who's your bargaining superhero? And a lot of you, it was your mom or your dad. I think dad's won the contest, but that was cool. So that was it. And then finally, in that assignment, I was looking for, what are you going to bargain and negotiate next? What are the next steps for you in the category of bargaining and negotiating? Now, let me just try to summarize the whole purpose for this part of the lesson. We spent 1 week on bargaining and negotiating. And why is that even part of a personal finance class? And as you will recall, the question that I asked, I tried to divide the group between folks who, on the one hand, love to negotiate. They love to bargain. But on the other hand, there are lots of folks, half of the room would be folks who say, you know what, it's awkward. I don't enjoy it. It feels uncomfortable. It's not something I'm good at. And so that was kind of how we set the table for this whole lesson about bargaining and negotiating. And very simply, I wanted you to think about, if there was a cost, if there was a number, if there was a percentage of differential between those of us who love to bargain and negotiate, and we see everything as an opportunity to bargain and negotiate, what would be the percentage of difference between, like, if we all pretended we all made $100,000 a year and we all had basically the same needs? We all had groceries, rent, utilities, internet, mobile phone, everything that we're already spending money on. We all had the same list of categories. But on the one hand, some of us see every one of those things as something that can be negotiated, versus the other side of the room who says, I don't think you can negotiate on groceries or tennis shoes or internet or cable or credit card late fees or whatever. Well, those of us who bargain and negotiate everything know that pretty much everything is negotiable. The key is to make up your mind that, yeah, you can negotiate pretty much everything. Are you going to always be successful? No, but the statistics are significantly in your favor, believe me. And so there is some number. I don't know what it is. Nobody would know. But imagine if my $100,000 could go 10% further, because I just have the attitude that I'm going to learn a few basic things about negotiating and bargaining. And so I used a few of my friends, and I'll continue to develop resources, and you helped me with some resources to identify some good ideas for basic strategies and tips and tricks and tools, but mainly just simple things that if you decide to do them, they're like any discipline and they will pay off. So I really appreciated Remit sharing the interview he did about negotiating your salary, because that's a big one. It's a big ticket item. And so enough about that. That was the assignment, one of the 3 assignments for last week. This week, let me see. Can you help me? Can you help remove the assignments that is done from the assignment list? It would be a lot less confusing if we only see 1 assignment and 2 extra credit this week instead of the whole 9 assignments. I'll check in to see. I deleted some yesterday. Yes, please. Okay. So you guys, tell me this. You guys see assignments that aren't even due? Do you see every assignment that's ever been posted in my Blackboard shell? So Randy, you do. So you guys see a lot of assignments. I didn't realize that. I did realize it yesterday because you sent me a screenshot showing all those assignments. Now, to be fair, those were all grayed out, right? They weren't, like, you couldn't click on them and see those assignments. Am I right? They're just showing up in a list. Is that right? I believe that's right. Vicky, they're showing up in a list, but if you click on them, they don't do anything. They don't open, correct? I'm assuming that's yes. Okay, so I hear you, and I will, Brian, thanks. I will get on that today. Nobody's ever really, well, it doesn't seem like it's ever been an issue, but I certainly get that from that screenshot I saw that would be annoying. So let me see what I can do. And for future reference, what I'm going to do next semester, because of your input, is I'm going to start with a clean slate, which means I have to recreate every assignment, every piece of content. But I'm going to do that because the last thing I want to happen is for you guys to have frustrations and confusion, especially when it comes to your assignments, because I know you got a lot going on. This is just one of the classes. So I apologize, and I'll do what I can to get that fixed. But give me some grace. If I can't get it fixed, just please accept my apology, and I'll do everything I can to help you get moving forward. So let's talk about this week's assignment coming up. So today we're going to wrap up insurance if I ever get through the review of the assignments. And again, insurance is a big topic, tons of stuff. So I would encourage you guys, do subscribe to the YouTube channel because you'll get notified when I post new not just new assignments, but I'm going to be posting on YouTube short tutorials to answer questions that students have, past students, current students, and future students. So if you're already on YouTube following social media, I would encourage you to let's stay connected, and you'll always have access. And if you ever have a question that I can answer, I'm always happy to answer questions. So insurance is just too big a topic to really cover fairly. But so coming up next week, we're going to dive into investments. And so I'm going to go over the assignment that you have this week and explain why that assignment is being assigned now and how it can help you moving forward as we learn about investment strategies and everything you need to understand for those lessons and strategies to make sense. So one of the reasons this assignment, calculate the cost of your retirement, that assignment is due this Friday. I believe it's due this Friday. It was posted this week. It's available now. So calculate the cost of your retirement is going to come in real handy. A lot of the information that you're going to have to think about in order to complete that assignment is going to make you think about some of the things that you're going to learn about investments, about asset allocation and diversification and dollar cost averaging and portfolio rebalancing. You're going to need to understand, and so we have to start somewhere. We talked about the perfect investment a little bit, which is a 401k, and taking advantage of the company match, which is part of your assignment this week, is to understand different types of accounts. I don't want you to become an expert. I don't want you to spend a tremendous amount of time. I just want you to get exposed to a 401k and an IRA and a Roth IRA and a TSP and all the other kinds of plans that are available out there that one day you're very likely to want to understand. So they're general topics, these types of accounts, a 401k, a TSP. These are tax deferred company plans. And then you have the individual retirement account. That's a general account type. And then you have a Roth IRA. So the Roth IRA is tax free, while the IRA is tax deferred, just like the corporate 401k plan. So I just want you to start to become familiar with types of accounts, because after we go through 2 weeks of investment strategies, I'm going to then transition to the second law of personal finance, which is the law of tax advantaged investing. And that's all about types of accounts. So you really need to understand the difference between a type of account and an investment. I get a little, I guess I chuckle, but it just seems kind of ignorant to me when people think of an IRA as an investment, because an IRA is not an investment. A Roth IRA is not an investment. A 401k is not an investment. They're simply types of accounts. And it's really important that you understand which type of account you're putting your money in, because it's the type of account that has everything to do with how the IRS treats your money and the growth. So that's why tax advantaged investing is one of the 3 laws of personal finance. And in order for you to get that, you really need to understand quickly the distinction between a type of account and an investment. There's so much to cover on investments, and there's a lot to cover on types of accounts, but just remember those are 2 different things. And so what you're going to do this week when you calculate the cost of your retirement is you're going to be forced to start to think about return on investment, inflation, how old you are now, how much you're going to save, how much of a return are you going to get on your investment. Now that's where investments get really interesting, because I can tell you, before we talk about asset allocation, we have to talk about asset classes. That means types of assets. And when you start to invest, you're basically having to choose, what are you going to invest in? You know, the type of account for one thing, but what are you going to actually invest in inside of that account? And in order for you to even begin to make that decision, you have to understand asset classes. Are you going to invest in small cap stocks, large cap stocks, international stocks? Are you going to invest in a mutual fund or an ETF or an individual company stock? So there's a lot to learn. And I never promised you'd be an expert in investing. But what I do promise is this, that when you start your job, your dream job, hopefully you'll start that soon after you graduate, you will be fully equipped and fully prepared to take full advantage of the perfect investment. And to do that, you need to understand that, A, that's a type of account that has a unique and generally a very phenomenal benefit, which is your employer match. Now, not every company is going to provide it, but most companies do. And so that's what makes it the perfect investment. It's a type of account, but then on day one, you need to understand not just how to take advantage of the perfect investment, the company match, but you also need to understand, okay, now how do I allocate the money that's going into my 401k? That's my promise to you, is I'm going to teach you enough so that you will be very confident on day one of your job. When you sit down with HR, human resources, you're going to be able to say, yes, this is what I'm going to do. to take advantage of the perfect investment. And this is what I'm going to do to allocate my assets in such a way that I'm going to get the best return on my investment possible. And then I'm going to teach you the other strategies. There are 4 strategies I'm going to teach you that will help you maximize your return and minimize your risk. And I'm going to quickly review those right now, even though they're not part of your homework assignment this week. This week's assignment is to calculate the cost of your retirement. You're going to use a very standard online template. You can find one. You can pick your own. I don't really care. I just want you to see here's the different pieces of information that go into calculating the cost of retirement. And about 25% of Americans have ever even taken the time. Think about this. Only about 25% of Americans have taken the time to really figure out what will it cost for me to have a retirement where I can live with dignity without having to be stressed all the time about not having enough money, or to go into retirement knowing that I'm really going to have to work an extra job even after I retire to make ends meet. So I want you to know, A, what does it cost to retire? And B, how do you get to that number? Because, calculating it, understanding those inputs gives you a lot of options, a lot of choice, informed choices along the way. So I want you to learn that. I want you to be in the 25% who have taken the time to calculate the cost of your retirement. So you're going to learn in this assignment some of the basic things that go into that calculation. I do not expect you to master this. I just expect you to struggle with it and do your best. That's it. And then tell me what you learned. Next week, I'm going to teach you these 4 strategies, and here they are. Asset allocation, the number one most important strategy to determine the returns or the results of your portfolio. Asset allocation. It's key. Number 2, well, actually, diversification is number 1. It's not as powerful as asset allocation, but without diversification, there is no asset allocation, because diversification means you're not putting everything in one basket. You're spreading it out. So you're not taking too much risk in one investment, and it is key. It's fundamental. Asset allocation is the number 1 determinant of your portfolio's returns. So number 3 is what I think is the most powerful investment strategy, because especially if you're young and you're going to be investing for a long time, dollar cost averaging gives you this super ability to maximize returns and minimize risk. And I'm going to teach you how that works by telling you a story about Farmer Joe. And it's one of my favorite stories to tell. So that's dollar cost averaging. And then finally, and you'll learn a little bit about this strategy when you listen to the Paula Pant Afford Anything podcast, which is part of your assignment. You're going to learn about portfolio rebalancing. So that's a lot of stuff that you may not realize how many little pieces of information go into being in a place where you can understand those 4 strategies. But I'm going to teach you what I think you need to know so that you can walk away from this course in 2 weeks with the confidence to know that on day 1, when you start your job, you're going to be able to invest like a pro. And I think you need to know how to do that, especially in your 401k. So that's what's coming this week. Insurance. Let's get to insurance. Okay, I'm going to check questions real quick. I don't see any questions. I should see if there's anybody waiting to be admitted. Nobody's waiting to be admitted. That means everybody understands that I'm not admitting anybody after 5 minutes after. Okay, it's 10:34. Let me take a drink of water. Okay, no questions? No questions. Today I want to talk about insurance, part 2, insurance 202. Last week we talked a little bit about property and casualty and general concepts of insurance. Today I want to jump right in and go over a few of the coverages. So you did your auto quote. You came back with some auto quotes, and the top number, probably the most important coverage on an auto policy. Does anybody know what it is? The most important coverage? You can chime in. type it in the text box. This is maybe my opinion, maybe not, maybe it's a professional opinion, but what's your opinion? What's the most important coverage you saw on your auto insurance quote? I guess you guys may be watching Netflix, chiming in on Facebook. Nobody's here. I mean, you're here, but oh yeah, liability. Thanks, Ben. I think that's right. Why do you say liability is the most important? I think it is, but clearly you had enough time to Google it and get the answer if you didn't know. Other person's car. Ben, that's kind of missing the point. I mean, liability does pay for the other person's car, but trust me, if you kill the other person and you get sued, it's going to cost a lot more for the person who died than any car could be driving, even if it's an 18-wheeler full of like bananas. It's just, think about it. Liability covers more than the other person's car. So, yep, that's true. Thanks, Ben. So, property and damage, that's right. Cheapest shot in the, so no, it's not because it's the cheapest coverage. So, for one thing, you're legally liable. You're required by law to carry liability insurance, so you can be financially responsible for any accident that you cause. So liability is pretty important. But it's important for another reason, and it's because I'm trying to teach you how to manage your money. And one of my goals is that by the time you're my ripe old age, I'm 58, but by the time you're 50, if you're a graduate of a business college, I'm hoping that you do the small things you can do to become a millionaire by the time you're 50. And if you do that and you don't have enough insurance and you get in an accident and somebody gets hurt or killed and you don't have enough liability insurance, then you could get sued and lose, and then you have to pay for the damage, and that could ruin you. And that's why liability insurance is very important. So yeah, it protects you from any damages to another driver or their property. So that's what it covers. And there are three numbers. Remember what they were? I'm going to just throw out three numbers. This is pretty common. 100, 350. 100, 350. What does 100, 350 actually mean in liability? I see a beautiful picture of a sunset, but no one spoke. So 100, 350 liability coverage. 100 is $100,000 for one person's injury. 300,000 is the aggregate for if it's a school bus and multiple people are injured, and the 50 is for the property damage. So just remember that. It's important to remember. Liability is the most important coverage on auto policy. I want to mention, kind of insert parentheses, personal liability umbrella policy, a PLUP. A PLUP is $1 million, could be more than $1 million, but $1 million is basically what it is. And it's a personal liability umbrella policy that goes over and above your auto and your home liability. So just remember that. You're going to hear about it as you grow your wealth. Somebody along the way, hopefully a financial advisor or planner, will say, hey, it's time to think about a personal liability umbrella policy. You can get one for a couple $100 a year. They're cheap, and they really transform your liability protection from, let's say, 300 or 100, 350 to $1 million. Basically, $1 million coverage. It covers you anywhere in the world for your liability. I always like to use the example of, I'm in Tokyo. I've never been to Tokyo, but in this story, I'm in Tokyo and I'm playing golf. I don't play golf, but I'm in Tokyo and I'm playing golf, and I'm just drank like 6 sakis. I never drank sake, but in the story, I'm in Tokyo, I'm playing golf, and I just drank several sakis. Do you know what sake is? Sake? I know what it is. I know how they make it. I just never have tasted it. Yes, Monica knows what sake is. So anyway, I'm playing golf in Tokyo after drinking sake. I'm in another country on another continent, and I'm playing golf. And I hit my golf ball after drinking sake, and it goes crazy, and it hits this Japanese man in the eye, and the man that it hits in the eye happens to be a world-renowned surgeon, and he's no longer able to practice the art of surgery because I just ruined his eye, because I had drank too much sake and I was playing golf. Two things I should never do at the same time. And so my personal liability umbrella policy is going to pay to defend me anywhere in the world. There's no limit to the cost that my umbrella policy will pay in my legal defense. And then it will pay up to $1 million for whatever damages. And this man, who I just ruined his career, he could easily have $1 million claim against me. And it was clearly my fault because of the sake. And because I don't know how to play golf, and I started swinging at a ball, then a reasonable person would know that that's not smart. And so that's kind of the rule in liability. If a reasonable person would say, yeah, that's not smart, and somebody gets hurt because of that not smart thing you did, your chances are you're going to be negligent. You're going to be liable. And that's the bar for your liability insurance to cover you. So, on average, how much does a liability insurance cost? So, I don't know that there's an average. Like I said, if you have a good driving record, like your insurance for your car insurance, if you're paying more than the next guy, it's because you've had accidents, or you've got a DUI, or you got really bad credit. Yes, they check your credit when you get a car insurance policy. Imagine that. So all those factors determine how much you pay for car insurance. And if you buy liability insurance and you have impairments that cause you to pay more for your underlying insurance, those impairments are going to flow over to your liability insurance and or prevent you from even being able to purchase that umbrella policy. So it's like they're not going to sell you insurance if you're not a good risk. And they're certainly not going to sell you insurance cheap if you're not a good risk. And you can buy umbrella insurance. Personal liability umbrella policies are cheap. So hope that helps. Age as well? Absolutely. Up until a certain age, Jazz, you pay a lot more. So especially if you're a guy, for whatever reason, I guess they can still discriminate against us in the insurance industry because for some reason they think guys like to drive faster than girls. Where'd they ever get that idea? I don't know, but they charge more for us than them. It's not right, but they do. And younger pays more, absolutely. I guess it's why teenagers pay more for car insurance. You think? Yes. They pay not just more, but a lot more, like a whole lot more. So, and that's why when you scroll down to your certain coverage on your car insurance policy and you see uninsured, underinsured coverage, if you look over at the right and you see the cost for that coverage, you'll notice it's kind of expensive. And I always tell people, yeah, it's kind of expensive because uninsured and underinsured coverage is one of those coverages that you're kind of likely to actually have to use at some point in your life if you live in Houston, because there's a lot of people driving around Houston, teenagers included, who don't have insurance or don't have enough insurance. Because why? Because it's expensive. So they don't buy it. And so then when you get in an accident with them, they don't have any insurance, so you have to use your insurance. But guess what? Your insurance isn't going to cover you if you get injured. Think about that. Your insurance will pay for your car if you have collision, right? And that teenager hits you and they don't have insurance. Your collision will cover it. You will have to pay your deductible. That's the bummer about using your insurance, Azan. If that teenager hits you and they have insurance, their insurance is going to pay for it. And trust me, their insurance will go up. And it was already really high, but it'll go up even more because of their claim. And that's how insurance works. But you shouldn't have to pay for your car if that teenager hit you, right? Right. But if that teenager doesn't have insurance and your car gets destroyed, you either have to use your coverage, but what if you didn't have collision coverage on your car? You don't have to. You have to have collision coverage if you have a loan. But like, I don't never. That's not really good to say, is it? I never get a loan for a car because I always buy used cars. Typically, I buy Lexus. I love Lexus. I always like to buy a Lexus ES350, and I won't buy a car unless it has about 100,000 miles on it, because that's when the price just drops. So I can get a really good deal on a really nice car, but I would never borrow money for that. And frankly, I wouldn't have to carry collision coverage. If I got in an accident with this teenager who didn't have insurance and I didn't have collision coverage, I'm out of luck. Unless I have uninsured, underinsured, and then I'm back in luck. You get that? Because then I'm claiming under that coverage, not my collision coverage. So that is an expensive coverage, and it matters because you're probably going to use it if you live in Houston. So we've covered liability, uninsured, underinsured, collision. Collision, remember the deductible. If you have a higher deductible, it lowers the price. I want to talk about comprehensive. Comprehensive is my favorite coverage on a car policy. So I think I asked you this question last week. If I didn't, let me ask you now. What does the word comprehensive mean? You can Google that. You can ask Siri. You can ask the person in the other room, but go ahead. I'm going to take a drink of water, and I want you to tell me what you think the term comprehensive means, because it's actually the name of a coverage on your car policy in Texas, and it's a very important coverage. In fact, it's my favorite coverage of any policy anywhere: property and casualty, life, health. Comprehensive, my favorite coverage. So what is it? Overall and broad, that's good. Complete C, that's interesting, Yolani. What's that really mean? Is it anything except for collision? So like theft, flood? Vicky, that's correct. It's anything except for collision. And there are a few other exclusions, and we'll talk about that after I take a drink of water. So there's this thing in insurance, and it's called an insuring agreement. Now, this is way inside baseball. You probably don't even care. You don't really need to know, but whether it's homeowners insurance or car insurance or ATV, RV, motorcycle insurance, there's always this clause. It's called the insuring agreement. And in comprehensive, the insuring agreement basically says we'll cover your car for anything. Sounds too good to be true? Well, yeah, anything except the most common thing that's going to happen to your car that's related to insurance is collision. So obviously that is excluded from comp. Comp is short for collision. So that's inside baseball. New word, comp. That's what we call it in the insurance world, comp. So comp, complete, comprehensive, covers anything except what's excluded. And you can look in your policy always, anytime, and see the exclusions. One of them is collision, obviously. Hopefully that's obvious. Do you know why that's obvious? Because it'd be kind of stupid of the insurance company to say, we're going to cover your car for anything if you buy this cheap coverage. Comp is cheap. See? That's one of the reasons I love comp. It's cheap, and it covers everything except what's excluded. It'd be pretty stupid of the insurance company to say, oh yeah, we didn't think about that. We're going to sell you comp insurance, and if you get in a collision, we'll pay for that too. No, it doesn't work that way. Some people think it should, but it doesn't. Collision is for when you run into something that's your fault. Collision covers that. Comp covers everything. So we live in Texas. We have hurricanes. We have hail. We have windstorms. We have floods. We have thieves. We have vandals. We have all these things that can happen to it. Trees can fall and break your car. And here's one. When I became a State Farm agent, I lived in Pennsylvania at the time. I mean, that's where I went to become a State Farm agent in this little town called Ridgeway, Pennsylvania. Look it up on the map. Ridgeway is spelled Ridgway. And if you look at Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, there's this big green circle on the map. It's the Allegheny National Forest, the National Forest, and it's round, it's a circle. And if you look at 3 o'clock, right on that circle, there's this little town in Elk County called Ridgway. It's the county seat of Elk County. They call it Elk County because there are literally elk. Like people, you get up and there's elk eating your garden stuff. But because of this national forest, there's a tremendous amount of wildlife. It's a fantastically beautiful place. Ridgway was a great place for me to become a State Farm agent. And my first day as a State Farm agent, I got there early in the morning, and I answered the first call I took was a claim. Somebody had an accident. In Ridgway, there was a lot of rural. Western Pennsylvania is very rural. It's not urban. It's way out. There was no McDonald's in my town. Seriously, I had to drive 2 miles to another town to get, no, 8 miles to another town to get to a McDonald's. But so it's very rural, lots of mountainous stuff and winding roads. So I got this, it is lovely. I took this claim, and this person had an accident with an animal, and it destroyed their car. So first, which animal do you think it was? It's Elk County, but it wasn't an elk. Yeah, I know, it should be an elk. You'd think a deer, right? Because we had plenty of deer, and they were big deer, and a deer can mess up your car. And if my client would have hit a deer, it would have been covered under comp, because comp covers animals. But it wasn't an elk, it wasn't a deer, a boar, a boat, a bear. Brent, how'd you know that? Pennsylvania, it's like bear country. The very first claim I took in my career as a State Farm agent was a client who got in an accident early in the morning, and he hit a bear, totaled his car. It was a pretty big bear. I was like, no way. I'm going to tell this story for as long as I live. My first claim as a State Farm agent, my client's car got totaled because they hit a bear, and it was covered under comprehensive, not collision, but comprehensive. Lucky guess. Okay, cool. Does your comp insurance price go up if something like a flood destroys your car? Great question, Ben. It's another reason I love comp, because no, you can have as many claims under comp. I mean, I'm sure at some point your insurance company is going to start asking questions and figuring stuff out. But if it's a flood, if it's a hurricane, if it's an animal, most of the time it's like, no, that comp is not something you can control. And so, no, it doesn't make your rates go up. Unlike collision, you get in one accident that's your fault, your insurance is going up. Unless you're with some companies that say they give you accident forgiveness, and that's cool. But typically, you get in an accident, your insurance is going up. Comp, not so. So I love comp. So here's a story. I'm moving from Austin, Texas to Houston, Texas, so that I could work for State Farm. My friend Vinny, I think I told you stories about Vinny, maybe with the gun. Vinny was the guy who managed the salvage in Austin. So whenever there was a claim, one of his jobs was he would go pick up the salvage and have to dispose of it, which means selling it to a dealer, usually guns, lots and lots of guns. And remember that story about the .357 pistol that I purchased, and my wife and I were on a spending freeze? Well, same guy, Vinny Vance, my friend. So Vance was helping us move from Austin to Houston, and this was I think it was January of 1990, because I started November of 1989. So my family is moving, and Vinny Vance, my friend Vance, he had just bought a new Suburban. It was a beautiful vehicle. And his kids and my kids and he and I were in the Suburban. And the wife and his wife, my wife and his wife, and our daughter, no, we didn't have a daughter yet. They were in the other vehicle. But all the kids and me and Vinny, we were in the Suburban. So we had to stop so they could, go to the bathroom. And then Vinny got himself a big gulp. You know what a big gulp is? You guys know what a big gulp is. Wait, I know you're watching Netflix while you're listening to me, but a big gulp, big drink. So Vinny gets a big drink and he puts it in his console and we're driving down the road. Okay, this is better than Netflix, trust me. So Vinny's driving down the road from Austin to Houston doing about 70 miles an hour. He reaches down to get his big gulp, and what he does is he bumps the shifter doing 70 miles an hour in his brand new Suburban. He bumps the shifter, puts it in reverse, doing 70 miles an hour. What do you think happens? Have you ever seen a vehicle go into reverse while you're doing 70 miles an hour down the interstate? Think about that first. What do you think happened? I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but I used to be a master mechanic. That's how I paid for college. I still change my own oil. So did the car flip? No, the car didn't flip. The transmission may be messed up. To say the least, Deandra, it was messed up, and it smoked, and it melted. It blew. Yes, it blew. Gears got super grinder. I think mostly I'm not exactly sure. Probably I can't think of the name. The manifold, the thing that moves all the hydraulics around, probably just blew out. I'm sure it blew out every seal in the transmission, but it stopped working, to say the least. So a few weeks later, then he calls me up because remember, I was a master mechanic. I still do. I know a lot about cars. So he doesn't know much about cars, so he calls me. Remember now, I'm a brand new claims adjuster at State Farm. I'm just barely going through claims school, but I'm learning and I'm paying attention. I hope you're paying attention too. I was learning some really cool things, and I was just learning about an insuring agreement and how they work and how if it's not excluded, it's covered. I'm like, that's a very cool thing to know, especially if you're going to be handling claims. You should know that. So Vance calls me up because he gets an estimate for his transmission. He's like, hey, Munch, they want $2,500 to change out my transmission. You think I should do it? It's the dealer. I could probably save some money if I went to Amico or some other shop. What do you think, Munch? And I'm like, here's what I think, Vance. I think you should file a claim. He said, what are you talking about? File a claim. I was like, you got comp, right? It's like, what do you mean? Yeah, comprehensive. You got comprehensive. Yeah, of course I got comprehensive. What's your deductible? $50. Your deductible is $50. You got comprehensive. Why wouldn't you file a claim under comprehensive? He's like, are you crazy? That's not covered. I'm like, he said, where in the policy does it say that that's covered? And I said, no, you're missing the whole point, Vance. The question is, where in the policy does it say it's not covered? Because under comp, it is covered unless it's excluded. And last time I checked, reaching for a big gulp while you're doing 70 miles an hour and bumping it into reverse, that's not listed as an exclusion. So he's like, you're crazy. I'm like, just trust me. Call State Farm, call the claims department, file a claim. Call your agent, file a claim. So he did. Calls me up not even 2 days later. He's like, I can't believe it. They didn't even ask any questions. They just want to know what was the bill, and they're paying it. And all I had to pay was my $50 deductible. You think Vance ever bought me lunch for that? No. He never even bought me lunch. I think he owes me lunch. I thought that was one story about comp. Another story about comp, why I love comp. So I'm working Hurricane Andrew. I don't know if you remember Hurricane Andrew, but it hammered Homestead. It hammered Miami. And so I'm away. My family's here in Friendswood. My wife is going to Little League with my two sons, and she goes to a donut shop early Saturday morning to get donuts, and her minivan wouldn't start. So there's this nice guy at the donut shop, and he gives her a jump and to help her get going. Only problem is he's in a welding truck. And I don't know if you know anything about automotive, but it's a 12-volt battery system. And his welding truck was like 220 volts. And he took the 220 volts and connected it to the 12-volt battery. And then what happened was smoke started coming out from everywhere. So my wife calls me up. The car won't start. the nice guy that jumped me, he took off. And now here I am with 2 kids in the donut shop. What do? I'm like, oh, wow. Well, here's what you do. We're going to file a claim under comp. She's like, why would that be covered? I'm like, trust me, it's covered. And I was kind of excited because it melted the radio, which didn't work so great. It did a whole bunch of damage to the vehicle. And I knew, A, they were going to fix it all and put all new stuff in it because everything that was electronic had to be replaced. So it's like we're going to get an upgrade. But 2, most important, is like it's going to take a while for them to fix it. And we have rental coverage, and that's a covered loss. And because it's a covered loss, we get to rent a vehicle, which is always fun. Now you can drive to Florida and see me without putting miles on our minivan. So that's story number 2 about comprehensive. But comprehensive, I'll give you one more story. Hurricane Harvey hit. Remember, it flooded the place? Well, we didn't realize that water got in our cars for a couple of days, and I filed a claim on our Lexuses, 2 old Lexuses, 100,000 miles. And so I filed the claims just because the carpet got wet and I wanted to get new carpet. Well, they totaled, every insurance company that took claims in Harvey decided to total the vehicles. So our comprehensive coverage, because of this flood, a little bit of water got the carpets wet and the carpets needed to be replaced. Really, they really only needed to be cleaned. But they totaled the cars, both cars. They sent me a check for like $8,000 for each car. And they wanted to pay for the car and take the car. But here's a little secret. If you know this, you can always buy the salvage. So if it's your car, you can say, okay, if I keep the car, instead of giving you the car, I keep the car. What is the salvage cost? Well, the salvage cost is always very low because the only reason they're totaling the car is because they think it's worthless. It's like going to be sold for parts. So think about that. We got to keep both cars, and they wrote us a check for like $1,200 less than what they would have written the check for if they kept the car. So we basically got to buy both of the cars, 2 Lexuses, for around $1,100 each, and that was because of comprehensive coverage. So it's my favorite coverage, and I want you to know how it works. Because it's a great coverage and you should always have it on your car. If you have a loan on your car, you have to have comprehensive. So we're now almost out of time, which is what happens when I start telling stories. I want to tell one more story though. You can, if you need to go, you can go. This will be recorded so you can watch the last part whenever you have time. And so, by the way, I hope you guys all know when I post these videos in your online course, you have controls, so you can fast forward. You can go to YouTube and watch it and actually fast forward it, because I can talk really fast and you'll still get the stories. But I want to tell one more story real quick, and it's about medical payments coverage on a homeowner's policy. And you know what? I'm going to have to answer some questions here. So I'm going to save the story. I'll do these stories and post them on YouTube, and you can get them later. I think you're going to want to watch, and I want to make some short videos to tell you some stories about specific coverages, and I will do that. I owe you that. You don't need to know that to pass the course or to get good grades on your homework, but you do need to know that to be able to make wise decisions about your insurance. So stay tuned. Let's stay connected, and I'll give you more stories. So the question is comp the same as full coverage, as agents call it? That's a great question, Yolani. The term full coverage is really an oxymoron. It's not, it doesn't exist. Full coverage. Think about this for a minute. If you came into my office when I was a State Farm agent and I pulled out an application for a car insurance policy, there is over 100 different options you could choose from. And if you got full coverage, that would mean that you were buying every single coverage you could possibly buy and adding every single rider you could possibly add, and nobody would ever do that. And that would be the closest thing to full coverage without even considering exclusions, things that are just not covered by insurance. So first of all, full coverage is a bad word. It doesn't really, it means different things to different people, and it's never going to mean full coverage. So, but yeah, typically when someone says full coverage, they're talking about liability, collision, and comprehensive. But that doesn't mean they're including uninsured and underinsured. That doesn't mean they're including personal injury protection. It doesn't mean they're including rental coverage. It doesn't mean they're including towing. So, when you think of full coverage, I hope you think of all those coverages that are available on a car insurance policy. And yes, it makes the price go up, but think about it. If you have one vehicle in your family, or maybe you have two people that work in your family and you both take your car to work every day, if one of your cars gets damaged in a flood or vandalism or stolen or whatever, you're going to need a replacement vehicle so you can keep going to work. And the only way you can get that covered under your policy is to have renter's insurance coverage. So that's just one coverage, and not everybody thinks they need it, but it comes in real handy, especially if you ever need to use your comp coverage. You want to have rental coverage. So good question. Any other questions before we wrap it up? It's time to go. So I want to respect everybody's time. It's been fun telling you stories. I hope you've been with us, and not on Netflix or Facebook. I hope you're here, and I hope to see you soon in another video in your online course. If you have any questions or if you run into any issues with your homework, just group me, text me, email me, whatever, and I will do my best as quickly as possible to create a tutorial video to answer your question and help you move forward. So good luck with this week's assignment. Good luck with your capstone, which you're working on every week, whether you know it or not. Oh, Brian, update on the book. Yes, I'm going to post this as a notification, an announcement. So here's the update on the book. Sorry about the delay, but I did get word from my cohorts at U of H. There is no provision for us to put the book in your hand through any resource on campus. So what that means is I'm going to have my beautiful wife, who is already committed to do this, she's going to put these in the mail, one of these to each person, along with if you paid for the course. If you didn't pay for the course, you're in big trouble. You may not know it yet, but you are. So if you didn't pay for the course, do that, because that's how you're going to get this. But the book and the blueprint will be coming to you in the mail in an envelope. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to put your address in your user profile at millennialwealthcare.com, or just go to moneystudygroup.com, and wherever you log in, when you log in, you need to edit your profile. So if I need to do a tutorial to show you how to do that, I'll do that. But that's the simplest way I know to get your address, the address you want me to mail the book to. So that's the deal. I'm going to mail you the book. If you'd rather have an electronic copy through Kindle, let me know, and I can arrange to do that. I think I can arrange to do that. But I owe you guys a book. I want you to have a copy of the book. It's a beautiful hardcover, well written, and it's a limited edition. It's really a beautiful book. It was endorsed by Stephen Covey, Ken Blanchard, a lot of leaders, but it came out really well. I want you to have a copy. So that's the answer to the book. Perfect. Thanks. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. And don't forget, if you have a question, let me know. I'm going to end it now.